What's up, everybody? We're here to go over UFC Vegas 82, Brendan Allen versus Paul Craig. As far as the results for last week go, man, per usual, the curse continues. I lost some money last weekend. Haven't been losing money very much, but the thing is a lot of the fights that I put money on always end up getting canceled. So I had a play on Esteban Rivovics originally. That fight got canceled. I had a play on Armen Petrosian. That fight got canceled during the event. Had a play on Renat Fakhretdinov, and that was a draw, so I got my money back there. And then the only bet I ended up actually having on the card was a 2-fight parlay of Gabriel Bonfim and Jalton Almeida, and Bonfim ruined that for me. So, and that was one of the things whenever I was doing my video over that fight or whatever, I was saying, like, I see it going two ways. Bonfim either gets an early submission or Dalby outlasts him and, uses his good cardio to get a win, late in the fight or win a decision. So I guess I should have, there were so many other fights on that card that would have been good. I didn't get very many fights wrong on the card as far as my picks go. So, there was a lot of fights I should have attacked on that card. I just attacked all the wrong ones. So should have. Kyle Barallo would have been a good play. Could have parlayed him with somebody else and done that. But hey, it happens. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too big of a loss. It happens occasionally. But I'm just more so frustrated that all the fights keep getting canceled that I put money on, because it happens just pretty much every weekend. So, but yeah, let's see here. Yeah, so please like and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate it. It helped me out a lot. Thank you to all the new subscribers that I've been picking up, and I do apologize for I'm pretty late. Usually I put my videos out on Wednesday or Tuesday. I got a lot of stuff going on, so I've been putting it off until today. So sorry about that. But if you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and I give out all my picks, and at the end of the video, I give out my bets. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go over to my social medias. TikTok and Instagram are both highkick_fight picks. And then there's a Facebook group called High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. It's easy to find. And also this show is available on Spotify, Pandora, all your major streaming platforms if you're interested in checking it out on there. Maybe you can't watch the video while you're driving, maybe you just want to hear it. So, but yeah, man, as far as this card goes, this is a pretty decent card, and a lot of fights on here that are going to be pretty fun. And some of these are. I'm really excited for Peyton Talbot's debut. Big fan of his after his fight on the Contender Series. The Jonathan Pierce versus Joe Anderson Brito. I mean, that's a difficult fight to pick. I mean, I'll get to it in a little bit, but. As far as fights that we lost Darius Flowers versus Ottoman Azaitar and Jesse Butler versus Jekka Sergi. Sergi is fighting Lucas Alexander now. And Lucas just had a fight fall out. I don't remember if it was last week. I think it was last week or the week before that. So either way, he's been having a camp. It's not like he's taking it on super short notice. He's been training the whole time. So either way, man, what else? I guess let's get into this card, guys. First up, we got Lucas Alexander taking on Jekka Sergi. Lucas Alexander is 28 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. He is 8-3 and 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a -300 favorite. He made his debut against Joe Anderson Brito, got finished, but Brito's a pretty bad dude, man. No shame there. But, in his next fight, he looked pretty amazing as an underdog as well against Steven Peterson. His striking looked amazing, great kicks to the legs and the body, threw a ton of them. Very fast hands, hits very hard, 3 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. I mean, all his losses have been by submission is something to think about, going forward. I don't think he's going to have to worry about that in this fight, but he has been submitted 3 times. So, obviously, that's the weak part of his game, submission defense. He fights out of both stances very well. Very good counter-striking, throws great combinations, mixes up his attacks very well. Lands on average just over 5 strikes per minute with a 67% takedown defense. I actually do think that Lucas is the better striker here with the speed advantage. He's going to have the cardio advantage in this fight as well, probably. So even though I said all those nice things about his striking, we also have to remember that he fought Steven Peterson, who retired right after that fight. So maybe that was a fight with somebody whose heart wasn't completely in it at that point. But he looked amazing either way. So um, Alexander has had trouble in the past with really good grapplers in the past, but it's just the kind of this is not that kind of opponent here, man. I mean, Seri is known for being a striker and getting a lot of knockouts and stuff like that. Um, and Alexander's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here, and he uses his length very well. He's very good. Throws a lot of nice straight shots. Um, I expect him to have a lot of success with his striking in this fight. He's taking on Jeka Sergi. He is 28 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. He is 13-3 and 0-1 in the UFC. And he is a plus 250 underdog. And this guy's an exciting fighter, man. All but one of his wins have been by finish. 8 knockouts and 4 submissions. He got exposed in his last fight against Ansel Jubilee. Jubilee looked very good in his last fight for 2 rounds, and then it was like he just gave up in the third. So I don't know what happened, or I was pretty high on Jubilee before that. So, yeah, Sergey, he showed very bad takedown defense and grappling, but one thing to consider is he was fighting up a weight class against Jubilee and was at a big size disadvantage. And he's going to go back down to featherweight here, which is his natural weight class. So there's a little bit of unknowns there because we haven't seen him, at this weight fight this level of competition yet. So we're really going to get to see what he can do, now against some people more his size. So does have decent striking, throws nice leg kicks, very powerful, may even have the power advantage in this fight. Throws a lot of spinning attacks and has some finishes via spinning attack. One was on the road to UFC. I don't know if it's spinning elbow. I think it was a spinning elbow. Very good with his knees in close. He just showed to not have the ability really to get up once he was taken down, from what we saw in the Jubilee fight. And, going back to his fights on the road to UFC, they were very impressive. Nasty knockouts. I mean, he was a big underdog in at least one of those. I think probably both, but I don't remember for sure. But he throws nice combinations, has a nice straight right hand, sneaky head kicks. He throws them kind of like a front kick with just a slight curve, man, coming from the front leg, almost. It's almost like a straight kick, but he just curves it a little. And I don't know, it's just different, man. I don't see a lot of people that throw him like that. I do think this guy will have success in the UFC eventually. Maybe the takedown defense will look better down at 145. I don't know. I would rather see Jekka win this fight. Watching the tape on him, I've become a big fan of his, and it would be cool to see a guy from Indonesia do well in the UFC. But I'm sure this is a short notice fight for him. I don't know if he's how much time he's had to prepare for Lucas Alexander here. And I think Lucas is going to be the more technical striker. I mean, if Jekka was able to get Lucas Alexander down, he might have success. But I'm gonna be taking Alexander to win. I'm gonna take him to win by decision. Yeah, I'll take him to win by decision. Charles Johnson versus Rafael Estevam. And Johnson is 32 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach. He is 13-5 and 2-3 in the UFC. And he's he was a minus 125 favorite at the time of doing my notes, but now he's a underdog. I think he's a plus 100 underdog. And so yeah, I've tried to put faith in Charles Johnson, a few times. Like in his last 2 fights, I felt he should have won those fights, and he looked terrible. I don't know what's going on with him there. I mean, I thought he showed decent takedown defense against Muhammad Makayev, and then Durden turned around and really dominated him with his wrestling as well. So it just I don't know, man. And in the Osborne fight, Osborne looked like shit as well, and Johnson still lost. Was very disappointed in that fight. I felt like that was a pretty horrible look for both of those guys, being at 125 pounds, and they were just both gassed out very early, and it was just a very sloppy fight, man. And all that to the side, Johnson has good power, decent boxing, has good height and reach for the weight class. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. 6 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, shows a 14% takedown accuracy and 54% takedown defense. That might have supposed to have been 74% takedown accuracy. I don't know. or maybe not because he hasn't really been going. I don't know if I wrote that down wrong or not. So correct me if I'm wrong, but he lands just 4.23 strikes per minute and absorbs 3.75 strikes per minute. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess the striking defense isn't the best. He does tend to eat a lot of shots, but he doesn't really ever get hurt. He kind of rolls with punches very well and stuff like that. I used to have a much higher opinion of him, but I now realize, his wins in the UFC haven't been very impressive. And, I actually thought Ismagulov, Zhalgas Ismagulov won that fight whenever they fought. I thought Zhalgas won the first 2 rounds. And so, yeah, man, that only leaves one knockout over Jimmy Flick, who is not very good. And, he just, Johnson let me down twice, man. He looked terrible, and he does use nice calf kicks, good teep kicks, and when he's on, he looks great, man. Nice hands, goes to the body a lot, but uh, man, yeah, I lost money on him twice in a row, so I'm not gonna. Uh, I know how good he can be, but you just never know what you're gonna get. So I guess that's the point. But he's taken on Rafael Estevam. He is 27 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. He is 11-0, and this is going to be his UFC debut. And he is now a favorite at like minus 125 or minus 120, but I caught him at plus 105 underdog. And I do have a small play on him for that. But yeah, this guy's really exciting to watch. Most of his wins are by finish, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's obviously very well rounded, really good cardio, pushes a tough pace on guys. He's a good size for the weight class. In his fight on the Contender Series, he showed good submission defense, good ground and pound, and throws really hard elbows from top position. Very good grappler, man, and hard to find a lot of tape on this guy, but he did beat a really tough guy on the Contender Series, even though I was only able to find a few fights of his. I was very impressed with what I seen, and I was very impressed with his win on the Contender Series over a very tough guy. He won that fight very dominantly. I won't go by the numbers here because that's only for one fight. They do include the Contender Series fights on UFC.com when they're doing all the the takedown accuracy and all that stuff, but it's usually best to wait until you've got at least 2 or 3 fights to go off of, or even 4. So I'm not going to go off the numbers on that, but he got 4 takedowns in his last fight alone. He does like to take guys down, and that's how you beat Charles Johnson, man. And I think Estevan's pace and his cardio will really wear on Charles Johnson, and he's the younger guy. He's going to be improving constantly, dangerous submissions, and I'm taking him to win. I don't think he gets a finish, man. Charles Johnson's not really getting finished or anything, and I'll take Esteban to win by decision just because Johnson has never been submitted. But I did like the price. I mean, it's still not a bad price on him if you're looking to get Esteban. Minus 120, minus 125 is a good price still. If I had gotten my video out earlier like I was supposed to, y'all would have been able to jump on the 105 with me, the plus 105. But sorry about that. So next up, we got Chad Ellinger taking on Jose Johnson. And Ellinger is 36 years old, 5'6", with a 64-inch reach. He is 12-6 and 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 148 underdog. So he won a split decision over Gafarov on the Contender Series. It was a pretty close fight, man. He looked great in his debut against a guy who really had never won a fight in the UFC. And he was eating some shots in that fight a little bit, but he ended up coming back and getting a finish. And then he didn't look very good in his last fight against who was that? Alatang Haley. Yeah, Alatang Haley. Yeah, he had a lot of big shots in that fight. He didn't get finished. Just couldn't get anything going really, man. And he was at a big size disadvantage, a big power disadvantage. He has really good footwork. Throws a lot of strikes from weird angles. Not the biggest guy in the weight class, like I said. Has a very short reach. Has 7 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Something to pay attention to is he's been submitted 5 times, but up until his last fight, he hadn't lost a fight since 2014. So he was on a very good run, and very fast hands, good takedown defense. Uses his jab very well. Threatens the guillotine every time guys are trying to take him down. Usually helps him get back up to his feet or get a sweep or whatever. The problem is immediately. For him here, he's never even attempted a takedown in the UFC. Is one thing that I notice immediately that could they could cause him problems in this fight because, um, you know, typically guys were able to beat Jose Johnson by taking him down, and that's the way to beat him. So Chad Ellinger's never went for a takedown in the UFC. Chad shows 48% takedown defense, lands 3.51 strikes per minute, and absorbs almost the same amount, as he lands, which isn't really a good thing. Um, he's never been knocked out. He is very good though, man, and moves in and out of the pocket very well. Good power, great cardio. This is a close fight either way, man. But if Ellinger doesn't try to use his wrestling here, I think he's going to be at a very big height and reach disadvantage in this fight. So I don't see it going well for him on the feet. He's taking on Jose Johnson. He is 28 years old, 6 foot tall with a 71.5-inch reach. He is 15-8 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 180 favorite. I think he's even a little bit bigger favorite than that now. So yeah, I do find it crazy after how he looked in his last fight that he's this big of a favorite. This is more like a pick'em fight to me. Maybe minus 120 versus minus 115. I don't know, but yeah, he's gonna have a 6-inch reach advantage and 6-inch height advantage and 7.5-inch reach advantage. His weaknesses in the past have been his takedown defense, submission defense, but you have to consider the guy lost on short notice in his debut to a very good fighter, Damon Blackshear. Jose has 7 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, has nice striking, uses his height and reach very well, nasty calf kicks, and I do have trouble believing that if Chad even does get Jose down, he would be able to keep him down, being at such a size disadvantage, and not being known as a wrestler. So he has decent. Johnson has decent submissions, with his long limbs, pretty good striking defense. I think we're going to get to see his striking in this fight. He typically spends his fights defending takedowns most of the time. Sorry, I can't talk today. Defending takedowns most of the time and trying to defensively grapple guys. And he's good at creating scrambles, and most importantly, he's good at doing damage. We've seen him, we've seen guys come and fight him and just push the wrestling on him constantly and never stop going for takedowns. But Johnson will land shots, and he still wins the rounds because he does more damage. That's the way the fight on the Contender Series went for him. He got taken down a lot, but the guy wasn't doing anything with it. And it kind of outweighs the opponent's control time. It depends on the judges, of course, man. Some judges will still score it for the other guy, but he is very good at causing damage, during the takedown defenses and being on the ground. He's very aggressive off of his back. So I think Johnson gets his first win in the UFC here, man, using his length and his striking. As far as a method of victory, man, it's hard to. I think I'm gonna take him to win by third round TKO. Next up, we got Jonathan Pierce taking on Joanderson Brito, and this is really good matchmaking, man. But I'm a big fan of both of these guys, so I hate to see either one of them lose. Excuse me. Jonathan Pierce is 31 years old, 6 foot tall with a 71-inch reach. He is 14-4 and 5-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus. I think he's a minus 155 now, actually, as I just checked earlier. Very hard to pick against either one of these guys. Pierce is a very good wrestler, great takedowns, very good ground and pound. And his striking on the feet has improved a whole lot since he's been, in the UFC. He's been showing that in his last few fights. 9 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. He's a pretty big guy for 145. He's got a big height advantage here, but actually will be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage in this fight. He landed several front kicks to the face in his last fight, man. He beat the brakes off of Darren Elkins in his last fight, and I believe he had an injury at one point and had to pull out of his fight with Bryce Mitchell. So hopefully he's fully recovered from that. He's very good, and he slips punches well, nice uppercuts, great cardio, nice head movement. I think this fight all comes down to whether or not Joanderson Brito can stop the takedowns of Pierce. Nobody else has really been able to. Pierce has a win over Christian Rodriguez, who's on a really good roll right now and has looked very impressive. Pierce averages 5.74 takedowns per 15 minutes and lands just over 6 strikes per minute. Really good takedown defense, man. He's been very dominant in all of his fights, pretty much, except for his debut when he got caught with a punch, by somebody he shouldn't have. But that happens to a lot of guys, man. And he's taking on Joe Anderson Brito. He is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. He is 15, 3-1, and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 135 underdog. And this guy's a finisher, man. 6 wins by knockout, 7 wins by submission. Most of his wins are in the first round. Um, and he has a few fights that he won at the beginning of the second round, but for the most part, it's very early finishes. He is very powerful, great striking, good grappling as well. Even though I think Pierce clearly has the advantage, in the grappling, um, I would say he definitely does, but Brito is very strong in the clinch and in the body lock takedowns and stuff. So um, yeah, Brito is very strong and explosive, and his striking is kind of wild. It's weird because I think Pierce has the more technical striking of these two, but I do believe that Brito will have the advantage on the feet still because of his power and that he just doesn't care, man. He just goes for it and throws everything he has into every shot. He's just really wild, and it works because when he hits guys, they fall. So we saw him in his debut, showed that the cardio may be an issue. He had a good start to that fight. I believe it was against Bill Algeo, and then ended up kind of gassing out and lost the last 2 rounds. And although he's looked amazing, since then we haven't seen anything yet to show that he's fixed that problem because he's had 3 first-round finishes since that fight. So he doesn't pace himself at all. So that this fight, either Brito gets a first-round knockout or Pierce wins a decision or possibly gets a late finish, via ground and pound or something. But Brito's pretty tough. I don't see him getting finished here really. Pierce should win this fight, man. He's gonna have to be very careful in the first round. Get that takedown, wear on Brito. And after that, I think he's got it, man. All he's got to do is slow Brito down, get through the first round, take him down, hold him down, whatever. But it's a scary fight. I'm taking Pierce, but I don't know that I'm going to be putting any money on this fight, really. I might add him in like one parlay, at the very end of all my parlays. But yeah, it's a scary fight, man. It's a good fight. Can't wait to see it. Next up, we got Mick Parkin taking on Caio Machado. And Parkin is 28 years old. He's 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. He is 7-0 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 325 favorite. He's got 5 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission, quite a few amateur fights as well. He's a big guy. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Hasn't really fought any super tough competition. Not that he is here, in this fight either. I don't consider Machado to be like, super high level competition either. He has good fundamentals in his boxing. He's not super wild. Nice jab. Doesn't gas out. At least not so far in any of the fights that I've watched. And it's he's not. He's not a fat heavyweight, man. He's in good shape. He goes to the body a lot. He gets off he gets off the center line. He doesn't get hit, and appears to be able to do it all, man. He trains with Tom Aspinall, and I don't feel like he's going to have too much trouble in this matchup, really. And he's taking on Caio Machado. He is 29 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. He is 8-1-1, and this is going to be his UFC debut, and he's a plus 275 underdog. And he's got 4 wins by knockout and 2 wins by submission. And he just isn't good, man. He wings wild shots. Striking isn't very pretty, not very technical. The guy he beat up on the Contender Series went out there and just did nothing. It was a terrible, terrible fight and terrible performance by his opponent as well. He didn't do anything, and so it's no wonder he won the fight. I honestly didn't think they were going to sign him still after that fight. I think Parkin is better everywhere the fight goes here, and I'm going to be taking Parkin to win by knockout round 3. Next up, we got Lucy Pudova taking on Aline Perez. And Lucy is 29 years old, 5'8" with a 67.5-inch reach. She is 14-8 and 3-6 in the UFC, and she's a plus 100 underdog. So she's coming off a fight she probably should have won, man. But I didn't mind it because I'm a big Jocelyn Edwards fan. But I actually thought that Pudilova won that fight, but the judges gave it to Edwards. But so yeah, this is her second shot in the UFC, man. She was cut a few years back after losing 4 fights in a row, and she came back last year and got a win over a girl that went 1-5 in the UFC. What was her name? Yan Wu, Yan and Wu. Yeah, she. I don't think she won one fight in the UFC, so that was not an impressive victory. But she did win very impressively by finish. She has good takedown. She's worked hard on her wrestling. Stuff like that. She was primarily known as a striker earlier in her career, and now she's been using the grappling a lot. She's going to have a height and 1.5 inch reach advantage. And in this fight, I don't know, man. This is one that I kind of struggled with on the pick here, man. And I don't know. I really, 14-8 record isn't very impressive. When you at first I was thinking I might go with Pudova, but watching the tape, I don't know. But she does have 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, and this is a very close fight. Could be anyway, but she's taking on Eileen Perez, and she is 29 years old, 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. She is 8-2 and 1-1 in the UFC, and she's a minus 125 favorite. 4 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission, and you know what? Running back the tape on everything, I do think that Perez looked more impressive in her last fight. But she was fighting someone who was 6-5 as well, so both of them, their last wins aren't all that impressive. But and also the girl she fought had been out for a couple years before that. So, but Perez seemed to have the power advantage in the striking here, and she throws nice combinations. She seems very strong. Showed good takedowns in her last fight, and after running the tape back and really watching, these two, I guess I like more of what I've seen from Perez. Nice body lock takedowns, really pressure fights. Seems to have some good pop on her punches. Normally when I feel a fight could go either way like this, I would say just pick the dog. But at minus 125, I don't mind the price on, Perez. I'm not going to get heavily invested, but I will put her in my parlays. So um, I say she wins this fight by decision. Next up, we got Nicholas Mata taking on Trey Ogden. And Mata is 30 years old, 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 13-5 and 1-2 in the UFC. And he's a minus 155 favorite. And, Mata has like a kill or be killed style, and is very fun to watch. He has nice hands, good boxing, very powerful. Hasn't been taken down yet in the UFC, but really hasn't fought any people that have been really pushing the takedowns yet. He has 9 wins by knockout. He's never won a fight by submission. The scary thing is he's been knocked out 4 times in his career, and twice in the UFC. So, but he was knocked out by really tough guys. So, I mean, I won't hold that against him too much. We saw what he is capable of in the Van Camp fight. He moves in and out of the pocket very well, counters very well. He's going to be the better, more powerful striker here probably, but I'm not completely sold on his takedown defense yet, because we really haven't seen anybody, really pushing the takedowns on him yet. So Ogden may want to look to give that a shot, try to get the takedowns. Mata was doing pretty well before he got knocked out in his last fight. He started the round off strong. It's just hard to be confident in a guy that we've seen get knocked out twice, early in his career like this. And I am surprised he's the favorite still here, honestly. I mean, maybe that's because Ogden, has never won a fight by knockout. Maybe that's why people are, leaning more towards Mata. Um, I was kind of hoping Mata would be an underdog, and I wouldn't have minded, taking a small shot on that. But plus money. But he's taking on Trey Ogden. He is 34 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. He is 16-6 and 1-2 in the UFC. He's a plus 121 underdog. And before the UFC, Ogden was primarily known for his ground game, 11 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out. He does have decent boxing, very good with just the basics. Nice 1-2, nice jab. And he made his debut against Jordan Levit, and it went to a split decision. A lot of grappling back and forth and stuff. And he really hasn't had an easy fight yet, in my opinion. He has a win over Daniel Zellhuber, who's on a good run right now. But Zellhuber didn't look like himself in that fight, also. But Ogden hasn't looked terrible, man. He hasn't been finished in the UFC, and we haven't really seen him, use his takedowns yet in the UFC. I mean, he has a nasty guillotine choke. He will have the height and a 1.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. He has good striking defense. He doesn't get hit a lot. Doesn't need a whole lot of big shots. Doesn't get wild, and doesn't put himself in bad positions. And I hope he uses his grappling here. You know, I mean, originally I was thinking about Mata, like I said, but I wouldn't be a very confident pick. Um, but I was also assuming that Mata was going to be the underdog. So, but he's not. So I'm going to go with Trey Ogden here. I think the value is on him, and he's never been knocked out, which is how Mata wins fights. So I'll take Ogden to win by decision. I think he's going to go out and fight safe and just get the win, man. So he doesn't get cut from the UFC. He's going to fight safe, get out there, get the takedowns, and win a decision. Next up, we got Cesar Almeida taking on Christian Leroy Duncan. It's an interesting fight. So Cesar Almeida he's 35 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. He is 4-0, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a plus 111 underdog, and I find it crazy that Duncan isn't a way bigger favorite here simply based on experience and MMA. Cesar has a kickboxing background. He fought Alex Pereira 3 times in kickboxing and lost twice, but he did win 1 time. So that's his claim to fame, I guess, man. And he went 47-8 as a kickboxer with 27 knockouts. He's coming off a win on the Contender Series where he actually out grappled his opponent and won a decision. I was honestly surprised he still got the contract because they're usually looking for finishers on there. Obviously he's got great striking. I expect this fight to play out on the feet probably, so it could be a pretty close fight. There is a lot of unknowns with this guy, man. Just haven't seen much of him yet. Haven't seen him fight any super high level competition yet. But he does seem to be a good fighter, man. So it seems like he has really kind of worked on his grappling and stuff. So maybe he's better than people are giving him credit for as far as an MMA fighter. He's taking on Christian Leroy Duncan. He is 28 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach. He is 8-1 and 1-1 in the UFC. He's a minus 131 favorite. And yeah, his one win was due to injury. So he had a lot of hype coming on him, into the UFC and hasn't really lived up to it yet, in my opinion. Throws a lot of weird kicks and has weird footwork, very unorthodox, throws a lot of side kicks and stuff. Honestly, I mean, he didn't look kind of stupid doing that against Armen Petrosyan because, it wasn't effective, and he did that for the whole first round and then kind of tired himself out from doing all that big movement stuff and everything. And, a lot of spinning attacks and wasted energy. He likes to blitz in kind of like a karate, taekwondo type style. It's cool to watch. I haven't seen it pay off in the UFC yet, man. He has a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. I was a big fan of Duncan's, on his way to the UFC. When he was in Cage Warriors, I was very familiar with him. He has 6 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He had a very long amateur career as well. He went 17-6 as an amateur. And so he has a big edge in experience here, but, he did appear to be pretty tired in his last fight. He slowed way down after all that fancy stuff in the first round. Made a mistake trying to take Petrosyan down and ended up on the bottom. So obviously, Petrosyan's not known as a good grappler either. And so, Duncan's grappling may not be up to par. So, this is going to basically be a kickboxing match, with MMA gloves. And, Cesar is a former world champion kickboxer. So, I guess when you look at it like that, I got to pick the underdog in Almeida. But as far as, I guess I'll take Almeida to win by decision since Duncan has never been knocked out. But I don't know. We shall see, man. These are 2 big guys, so. Next up, we got Euros Medic taking on Johnny Parsons. And this should be a very, very fun fight while it lasts, man. Both these guys are never in a boring fight, that's for sure. Excuse me. Got to catch my breath. Euros Medic is 30 years old, 6'1", with a 71-inch reach. He is 9-1 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 240 favorite. And Medic just made the move up to 170 pounds, man, and he's coming off a big comeback victory against Matthew Simmelsberger and got the knockout there. 7 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. He's never won or lost a fight by decision. He's a very good technical kickboxer, man. He looks great at 170. He has he's got the height advantage here and a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. Very powerful and creative striker. He's really good at creating angles, very fast. He shows a 61% striking accuracy, lands just under 7 strikes per minute, which is pretty good. 80% takedown defense. he has only he's only ever shot one takedown in the UFC, but he did land that takedown. He definitely has the speed advantage here, and I would say he's the better, more technical striker, and maybe the better grappler since both of these guys are known as strikers. But it's hard to say. I would think Medic has the advantage in the grappling. He throws a lot of kicks, some of his best weapons, man, and he's offensive off his back. He's good at attacking submissions to get back to his feet when he's taken down. He doesn't just accept the bottom position. It's going to be an exciting fight, man. And Medic's a southpaw, has a really nasty left hand, and yeah, man, that win over Matthew Semmelsberger was impressive because Semmelsberger almost knocked him out a couple times, in that fight, and Medic came back and was able to get the finish. So, big respect to him for that, man. Semmelsberger's a really tough dude. He's taking on Johnny Parsons. He is 32 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. He is 9-3 and 1-0 in the UFC. He's a plus 195 underdog. Yeah, man, this guy's like he's a dog, man. He just keeps coming. Has a Muay Thai background. 7 wins by knockout. Never won or lost a fight by submission. He's very good at checking kicks, man. He rolls with punches very well. He usually seems like he's eating a lot of shots, but they aren't as bad as they look because he's just so good at rolling with the punches. Fights very well in the clinch. Nice knees and elbows. Great kicks to the body. He likes to drag guys, into a brawl with him, and he has success in the pocket because he's the shorter guy usually. He hits very hard, lifelong Muay Thai guy, and you can tell he is, man. He's very, very good with it with his kicks, very powerful kicks, and just the technique on them is very perfect, man. You can tell he's been doing this Muay Thai for a long time. Um, where was that? Where was that? He doesn't get tired, man. Pushes a tough pace. It takes him a while sometimes to get going. Sometimes he has a little, kind of a rough first round, and then ends up coming on late in the fight and getting a finish. He's never been knocked out. I could see him having success late in this fight. He's a scary guy to bet against. I'm going to be taking Medic to get the win here. I'm going to say, Medic's going to use his reach and his speed advantage, I think, and hopefully he can stay out of the way of the big shots and not gas out. And if he does that, I think he can get the win, pretty easily here. I won't get heavily invested in this fight at all. Medic was dropped multiple times in his last fight, so that's kind of scary to be paying minus 240 for a guy who, this is a tough fight. This is not Johnny Parsons is no easy opponent, so I'll take Medic to win by decision. Next up, we got Amanda Rebos taking on Luana Pinheiro. And Rebos is 30 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. She is 11-4 and 6-3 in the UFC. She's a minus 310 favorite. So, that's a crazy high line considering she's coming off a knockout loss in her last fight. She's a very good grappler. She has 2 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. Good submission defense. She's never been submitted. Her last fight was a war, man. Both her and her opponent were bleeding all over the place. It's a very cool fight. Rebos is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. Her striking has looked a lot better lately. I know she got knocked out in her last fight, but Macy Barber's very tough, very good striker, very powerful. Rebos throws a lot of calf kicks. She's definitely fought the way tougher competition out of these two, man. And what I don't like is that she's dropping back down a weight class here, coming off a knockout loss. Usually when you start seeing fighters doing this, things start going downhill for them. But I do think she's the better fighter here, man. She could pull it all together. She has fought at 115 before in the past. So, maybe it's not that big of a change for her. Maybe it's easy for her. But yeah, man, she's taking on Luana Pinheiro. She's 30 years old, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. She's 11-1 and 3-0 in the UFC. Questionable 3-0 in the UFC. She's a plus 250 underdog, man, and her record looks great on paper, but I just really haven't been impressed with what she's done in the UFC yet. She won her debut because her opponent hit her with an illegal shot, and they stopped the fight and gave her the win by disqualification. She beat Sam Hughes. I've never really been that high on Sam Hughes. She went to a split decision with Michelle Waterson Gomez, and I don't know, man. That was a very close fight in my opinion. She definitely was the more powerful fighter, but Gomez was landing a lot of good shots. Yeah, Pinheiro was a judo champion at one point. She has 2 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. She hits very hard, but her striking isn't very technical. She will blast forward, wing hooks. She loads up on all of her shots and telegraphs them. I honestly thought she lost, her last fight against Gomez. I know she busted Gomez up a little bit, but Gomez was out voluming her and landed some good shots and kicks. She shows 50% both on her takedown defense and accuracy, 40% striking accuracy. She does slow down quite a bit because she loads up on all of her strikes. So by the third round, she's usually pretty. I don't want to say gassed out, but you can definitely tell that she's slowed way down in the third. Rebos is going to have the cardio advantage. Rebos should win this fight. I just hope that her last knockout loss hasn't affected her badly. And I'm going to take Rebos to win by decision. Next up, we got Peyton Talbot taking on Nick Aguilar. And Talbot is 25 years old, 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 6-0, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a minus 550 favorite. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy that he's that big of a favorite, in his debut. So it's how high everybody is on him. Oop, almost dropped my microphone. And so I'm real excited for this guy's debut, man. I was very impressed with him, with his win on the Contender Series. He really walks guys down, man. He does eat a lot of shots, but he never gets hurt really, and he does need to be careful doing that in the UFC, though. I mean, there's a lot of really tough guys that hit hard here. He walks guys down, he wears on them. He has very good cardio. He puts out a ton of volume. He landed like 150 strikes in his last fight. He fights very loose, keeps his hands low, throws really nice straight shots, and he hits very hard. Even though it doesn't look like he's putting a lot on his punches, he really hurts guys with those shots. And it reminds me a little bit of Sean O'Malley and Alex Caceres, with his style. He has very good takedown defense. He's very good. He's very good at that, man. Very good takedown defense, and he can't be kept down. I mean, he did get taken down a few times, but he popped right back up in the fights that I watched. So we've seen him hurt in fights and come back. He's never lost, not even as an amateur. He just stays in your face, man, and wears on you. He's young. He's going to be improving constantly, and the guy he beat on the Contender Series was Tracy Cortez's brother. Who's a very good fighter, man. I mean, honestly, that guy could be in the UFC, man. He's not a bad fighter. He's definitely a decent level of competition. And he's taking on Nick Aguilar. He is 27 years old, 5'9" with a 74-inch reach. He is 7-1. He's a 0-1 in the UFC and a plus 380 underdog. And sorry, I got to get it together, guys, man. Late this week, messing up my stuff. Sorry. And so Aguilar, before the UFC, this guy had all finishes, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, but hasn't fought the best of competition at all, man. The best guy he has a win over was 4-2. So he made his debut up a weight class against Daniel Argueta, got out wrestled. He does have decent striking. He's gonna have a 3.5-inch reach advantage here. He's very good at transitioning to the back, nice submissions, but honestly, there's not a lot I can say in his favor in this matchup, really, in my opinion. He may have a grappling advantage, but I don't know if he'd be able to keep Talbot down. So I think Talbot is going to win this fight. I think he gets a finish here. Probably a late finish, third round knockout. Just kind of overwhelms Aguilar, throughout the fight, and gets a finish. Next up, we got Jordan Levit taking on Chase Hooper. Yeah, man. So this fight is like, two people that that I feel like I can never have faith in at all. Jordan Levit is 28 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. He is 11-2 and 4-2 in the UFC. He's a plus 210 underdog. Yeah, this guy was known for his grappling and his submissions, but his striking has come a long way. He's coming off his first knockout win. With his hands anyway. I know he had that slam knockout over who was that? Matt Wyman, right? Yeah, I don't remember. Matt Wyman, I think. In his first fight in the UFC, and he's got 2 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. He has kind of an awkward style, throws a lot of kicks. Not the best striking, but he doesn't get hit that much, man. Kind of uses his uses his kicks kind of like a jab, to keep guys at bay to where he can't, get caught with any shots. Good trip takedowns, nice body lock takedowns. He's a very weird guy, but he finds a way to win, finds a way to win fights. So, um, and he's taking on Chase Hooper. He is 24 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He is 12-3-1 and 4-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 250 favorite. And I don't know what to make of this guy. He looks terrible, and then he'll come out and look great, and then turn around and look terrible again. He moves up. He just moved up to 155 pounds in his last fight, and he looked pretty good, man. Nice win over not the best of competition, but he was very dominant. He's known for his jiu-jitsu, very dangerous submissions, with his long frame, and doesn't have good takedowns though, man. So he doesn't often get to use his jiu-jitsu that much. He'll roll down, drop down for leg locks and stuff like that to try and get guys down, but not really the best takedowns. He's been working with Stephen Thompson, on his striking, trying to get like that karate type style going. He has 4 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission, and it's hard for me to put faith in him after some of the performances he's had, man. And he has 50% takedown defense, 36% striking defense, lands 5 strikes per minute. He uses good pressure, but we have seen him, run into big shots at times. That's how he got caught with Steve Garcia. He was eating shots the entire fight against Alex Caceres. Just not very good striking defense. If he looks the same as he did in his last fight, he could definitely win this fight, man. And I feel like I'm going to look dumb no matter who I pick here. Probably won't have any money on this fight either way. I definitely can't bring myself to put money on Chase Hooper, at this point. I mean, maybe if he gets on a little bit more of a run, I would have more faith in him. But, he did look good in his last fight, and every time I've said that, he loses his next fight. But, maybe he's turned a corner. I don't know. I can't say for sure until we see him again. Against, Jordan Levit's a decent level of competition. So this fight will tell us a lot, but I think if Levit can keep him down, he can win this fight. And I don't know, man, this is I guess I'll just pick the underdog in this fight. I'll take Levit, but I'm not confident in it, and I won't have any money on this fight at all. But yeah, I'll go with Levit here. Next up, we got the co-main event. Jake Matthews taking on Michael Morales. And Jake Matthews is 29 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. He is 19-6 and 12-6 in the UFC. He's a plus 200 underdog. And yeah, Jake's been around for a long time, man. He's grown up in the UFC, 5 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. His boxing has looked really, really improved in his last few fights. What worries me is that he got dropped in every round against Matthew Semelsberger. I mean, he definitely lost the first round, but if he hadn't got dropped in the last 2 rounds, he possibly could have won that fight. But man, his chin was looking pretty bad there. So he has great cardio, very well rounded. Nice submissions. He's only lost to really tough fighters, man. I mean, let's look at his record. His last win was over Darius Flowers. Flowers took that fight on short notice. Lost the fight to Semelsberger. Knocked out Andre Fiallo. He lost to Sean Brady via 3rd round submission. He's got a win over Diego Sanchez, Emil Weber Meek, and Rostam Akman. Lost to Anthony Rocco Martin. He's got a win over the Leech. Lost to Kevin Lee. That loss to James Vick doesn't look very good. I don't know, man. So he's been around a long time. I guess I can't say that. I mean, the most impressive win that he's got on here would probably be over, I guess, the Leech. I mean, if I had to pick, I'd have all these wins. I guess, yeah, probably the biggest win was over the Leech, man, because a lot of these people aren't in the UFC anymore. Anyways, where was I at? So he throws nice combinations, mixes up his attacks very well. Great counter striking, good front kicks to the body. His head movement looked, really good in his last fight. I'm a big fan of Jake's, man. He's got 62% takedown defense. Really only high level grapplers have been able to take him down. Like Sean Brady was able to get him down and get the submission. Matthews has 41% takedown accuracy. He's a great fighter. Um, Normally, I want to see him win, but I'm also a big fan of Michael Morales. So, Michael Morales is 24 years old, 6 foot tall with a 79-inch reach. That's a long reach for this weight class. 15-0 and 3-0 in the UFC. He's a minus 250 favorite. And I've had money on Morales in his last few fights. He's very good, undefeated prospect. Any questions or worries that I had about him were answered in his last fight. Seeing him go the distance with a very tough UFC veteran, Max Griffin. And he looked good through the whole fight pretty much, man. I was kind of worried that he might slow down or whatever and get out cardioed, but he looked great. And he has lots of first round finishes. I mean, that's why I was worried about the cardio. But he has 11 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He's a very good kickboxer, very fast and accurate with his strikes. Has really good takedown defense. He's young. He looks better every time we see him. 91% takedown defense, lands just over 5 strikes per minute. He can wrestle if he has to. Doesn't really do it that often. I think he did get a few takedowns in his last fight. And I'm going with him to win this fight, man. I think this fight is going to look like the Simmelsberger fight for Jake, man. And I think Morales is going to land the bigger shots and do more damage. Possibly drop Jake a few times and get a decision win. Jake doesn't get finished very often. And yeah, man, looking forward to it. It's a good fight. Next up, we got the main event. Brendan Allen taking on Paul Craig. Grab some water real quick. Need a WD-40 my chair. Squeaking. So, Brendan Allen is 27 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. He is 22-5 and 10-2 in the UFC. Minus 275 favorite. And, man, that's a really good record in the UFC, man. I mean, early on when he first came to the UFC, I wasn't all that convinced. I didn't think he would really, get this far or be this high up in the rankings and get the wins that he's had, So I mean, I've been very impressed. And he's progressively got better and better. His striking has improved a lot. Since early in his career, he's a very good grappler, man. Really nice takedowns and submissions. 5 wins by knockout, 13 wins by submission. He's won his last 3 fights by rear naked choke, man. And so I mean, it's a pretty safe bet to pick him to win by submission. He's the better striker here, and both these guys are good grapplers, man. I would say that all around, Allen is the better grappler, but as far as like off of, Paul's more dangerous than pretty much anybody off of his back. He actually prefers to be there. I think that's where Paul is better in this fight. Allen, I don't think Allen's really been getting any submissions off of his back. So, he's taking on Paul Craig. He is 35 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. He is 17-6-1 and 9-6-1 in the UFC. He's a plus 220 underdog. And he has 4 wins by knockout, 13 wins by submission as well. He's possibly the most dangerous guy off of his back in the UFC, man, in my opinion. He has wins over guys he never should have beat, man. Some of the best guys in the world right now he's got wins over. And now he's down at middleweight, and I got to say he looked pretty good, man. He's never been the best striker, but he finds ways to make it work. He is a big middleweight, very tall, very rangy. I'm a big fan of all the Scottish fighters, man. I want to see them win. Just because, like, my family came over here from Scotland way back in the day, so I mean, I'm just a fan of them. I don't pick them just because of that though. So, Paul's gonna have a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight. He was using his kicks very well in his last fight, man. Landed a lot of those and just kind of overwhelmed Andre Muniz and ended up getting a finish. That's not how I expected him to win the fight. And, who knows how these guys are going to look in a 5-round fight. I don't think we've seen either of them go past the 3rd round. And that could benefit Craig in this matchup. I don't know. I'd say for the most part, Allen has a lot of the advantages in this fight. And I'm going to be picking Allen to win by decision. But I do hope that Paul Craig pulls out the upset triangle choke like he has so many times in the past. But I definitely got to go with Brendan Allen here. He's better on the feet. Paul's striking is kind of sloppy. But, who knows what'll happen, man. Maybe Paul will pull out the upset. That's it as far as my picks goes, guys. Sorry if I'm sounding out of it today. Doing this early in the morning. And as far as my bets for this card go, I've got a 1-unit play on Michael Morales at minus 250. That line is still basically the same, I think. I caught Rafael Estevam at plus 105. That's a half unit play. He is a minus 125 now. I'm sure a lot more money is going to come in on him, so jump on it while you can. And then I've got a 2-fight parlay of Lucas Alexander and Talbot, Peyton Talbot, and that's a minus 150, and that's a 1-unit play as well. And as far as parlays go, I've got a 4-fight parlay with Estevam, Talbot, Medic. Oh man, I should have put Medic on the top line. Oh well, I'll let it ride. Estevam, Talbot, Medic, and Morales, and that's a plus 325. And then I got to that I added Amanda Rebos and Brennan Allen, and that's a plus 656. And then to that I added Trey Ogden and Jose Johnson, and also Aline Perez, and that's a plus 4,134. And then to that, my last one, I added just Jonathan Pierce to the very last one, and that's a plus 6,866. There's a couple fights I left off completely, and also there's a few fights that aren't up on Bovada yet, so I couldn't add them. But whatever, man. And so that's it as far as my picks and my bets for this card goes, guys. And let's take a look back at the changes real quick. Well, I mean, the fights are today, so I don't imagine y'all are going to care too much about my changes to this card coming up, but because I'm so late. But let's just take a look at the UFC 295 card, and I'll update y'all on what's going on with it as far as my picks go. Steve Erceg is now fighting Alessandro Costa, and originally my bet on this card was Steve Erceg and Mackenzie Dern 2-fight parlay. So now that he's not fighting the guy he was gonna fight, Erceg. Who was he supposed to fight? He was supposed to fight Matt Schnell, and so I haven't decided whether I'm gonna cash that out yet. I need to decide for the fight start, but that might just wind up being, because I'm not gonna get paid for Steve Erceg. It'll just be a play on Mackenzie Dern. And I do think Erceg still wins this fight, but Alessandro Costa is a very tough guy. That's why I'm not going back and putting any money on Steve Erceg, because we've only seen one fight of his in the UFC. So this could be a close fight, but I will still go with Erceg there. And is there anything else? And yeah, so I mean, other than that, the only thing, oh yeah, Matuis Rebecca is taking on Roosevelt Roberts now on very short notice. Of course, we got to go with Rebecca there. He's a minus 700 favorite. Roosevelt Roberts is very tough. I'm a fan of his. And has a decent record, 12-3. But I think Rebecca's going to win this fight, especially being on such short notice. And as far as anything else goes, I just added another 2-fight parlay to kind of replace the one that I had. Now it's Jamal Emmers and Mackenzie Dern. And not too much on this card, really. I didn't get heavily invested in it. So hopefully the few bets that I had pay off. And let's just look. That way I can tell you again what the plays were. Half the time I can't even remember. Got so much stuff going on and so much research on fights. So on this card, as far as now, I've got a play on half unit play on Nazim Saidkov at minus 150. Right now I've got a play on just Dern because I haven't cashed out that 2-fight parlay yet. I might leave it. I might not. I got a small play on Tom Aspinall, minus 115. That's a half unit. And now I also have a play on Jamal Emmers and Mackenzie Dern 2-fight parlay. And I'll have to look and see what the odds were on that. But I think it was like minus 105. Not too bad of a line. So, yeah, man, that's it for me, guys. Sorry if I'm out of it this morning. Sorry I'm so late on this video. Hopefully I'm going to get back on track this coming week. Try to get the video out on Thursday or Wednesday. And yeah, man, so please like and subscribe, guys. Thank you so much for your support and for caring what I have to say. I really appreciate all you guys. And have fun, man. Win some money. And I'm out of here, man. Y'all have a good one.